This is the Self-Aware Leader Podcast. Now your host, Jason Rigby.
Ben Corliss. Super excited about having this guy on. He is 20 years personal trainer, trained thousands of people. He looks like a Viking. He's huge. He's jacked. And he goes through the process of how he helps people, especially men, the men that are out there. I want you to listen to this. We're going to get into diet. We're going to get into exercise. And we're going to get into his app. It's only $15 and it has hundreds of trainings on there, different programs that are for you. If you want to see exactly what it's all about, I encourage you to go to his Instagram. It's Lifting with Wolves. Lifting with Wolves. He's literally lifting with wolves. You'll be able to see it. And all the tattoos, the Norse tattoos, the Viking stuff. Super cool. It is a privilege for us to have Ben on the episode. Thanks for being on, Ben. I want to start off with kind of going in detail on your app, because that's something that we can make sure that I want to make sure that we promote that and push that. So, Ben, what does it look like with your app, and what philosophy did you make when it came to making the app, and especially for those that are looking at getting into fitness? Is it for beginners? Is it for intermediate people? Like what was the thought behind the app, and how could someone download that app?
So the thought behind it was basically coming out of 2020 and COVID and all the gyms being shut down and all that kind of stuff, right? That just like wrecked the personal training industry. I mean, my wife and I worked at 24 Hour Fitness at the time, and they closed like 160 gyms or something like that.
Wow,
I don't remember
crazy.
exactly. Gold's closed a lot, so like the gym personal training business just got obliterated, right? And so there's building back and all this kind of stuff, but it was definitely a big shakeup of like, yo, like this is not. What if this happens again, right? This is not a sustainable life business model. You know what I'm saying? And and also working in the gym as long as I had, it's personal training is expensive, and that's the biggest objection that we had all the time was, oh, I can't afford it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's expensive. So a couple things. One, my business was a bit of a struggle, right? I mean, COVID wrecked that, but even then, like you have the local crowd who's into fitness there, what their financial situations like you're at the mercy of your environment, right?
Right.
So going online was a way for me to expand my reach to the entire world, right? Not just the town that I live in. So it gave me a lot more reach. It gives me a lot more access, as a business. But then for people, it gives them access to a good trainer for a fraction of the cost, right? Because that's the thing. I mean,
Mhm.
like I said, I used to run the personal training department at multiple different gyms. My wife did as well. So we've trained a lot of trainers, and aside from training a lot of clients, we've also trained a lot of trainers as well. And like they struggle, a lot of times they struggle.
Of course.
And
Right.
and the big thing is money. What I'm saying is they struggle with people that can't afford that level of training, or they're just not good trainers. That's the other part. You know what I'm saying? So to my point, there's a lot of people that either can't afford a personal trainer, right? Or there's not one that's any good where they're at. So even if they could afford, they can't find anything good. So by doing the app, it's given me the ability to access a lot more people, which helps me have a much more sustainable business. But it also gives my level of expertise and training to I've been doing this for 20 years. People are able to work with that for $15 a month, as opposed to like
Oh, that's
800
crazy.
or
Right.
more. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, it's then you have the option to message me on there. So if you have like I have 18 different programs. So as far as like who that's for, I have one program that's literally called the New to the Gym program that I designed for people who've literally never been to the gym ever in their life. They don't know anything about working out. And it starts with like the most basic stuff and builds on the fundamentals. And as you go through that program, you've learned these things. It adds new things that, are based on this. So it's really much more of a progress. Like the way that I ordered the exercises was more of like a learning progression than like a
Mm,
training progression, right? So that program is really meant like after you've done that once, or even that's the only program that I'm like, you don't necessarily have to do the whole program. You know what I'm saying? Like all my programs are 12 weeks. So that new one, a lot of people do it for like 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something like that. And they're like, I think I feel pretty good now. And then they want to switch and step it up to something that's going to be a little bit more challenging. So there is that option for people starting. And then from there, I have like different intensity levels, right? So I have bodybuilding, a whole bodybuilding program. There's a 4 day a week option, a 5 day a week option, a 6 day a week option. I have a pure strength program for people that want to focus solely on strength. I have a power building program that is a little bit of both, a little bit of strength and bodybuilding. So that one I use a lot with athletes that are really wanting to focus on the strength aspect of their sport because they're getting the strength aspect from the power part of that program. And then they're getting a little bit more conditioning from the bodybuilding side of that program. So it's a good mix for an athlete that's not wanting to go full strength. So like the pure strength program, that's going to be someone who wants to be like a power lifter or they want to lift as much as they can, right? Power building is going to be more for an athlete type of thing. Then I have a full body program, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and 5 days a week. That one I use for a lot of conditioning. That one's really good for people with weight loss because you're using your whole body every workout, so you're getting a much bigger metabolic response rather than just blasting your chest one day, like with bodybuilding, blasting the legs a different day, so on and so forth. So a lot of
Do you
different
think
options.
that yeah, do you think the full body one that you have on there, we have a lot of executives and stuff like that. They maybe only go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, because a lot of people don't understand, the concept of what it is to make that commitment to the gym. And we had talked about that before. But if somebody has 3, 4 times they can go to the gym a week, they have an hour and a half that they can go to the gym. Would that be something that they would see results, would see weight loss, would see muscle building?
Yeah, definitely. So the full body, that's the one I recommend for people like exactly like that. That they're not necessarily trying to build the biggest, most sculpt physique that they can. They just want to look good. Like they want to lose some weight, they
Right.
want to build some muscle, they want to look good, right? But time, schedule is a thing. So that's one thing I like about the full body too, is it's the most flexible program, right? Because you're doing
Mm,
like every workout is different. So the way I have it set up is you're doing like 1 or 2 exercises per muscle. So chest, you're doing one exercise, back, you're doing one exercise. Shoulders is where it gets a little bit different because you want to hit the middle delt and you want to hit the rear delt. So I in the front, right? So we're shoulders, I have usually like 2 exercises in there, but they're hitting completely different areas. But so my point is you're always doing different stuff, but you're always training the whole body each workout. So say you can't make it to the gym one of the days. You go the next day and you like if you miss a workout, it doesn't like screw up the whole program, right? Because you miss one
mm,
full body workout, you just do the next full body workout. You know what I'm saying?
that makes sense.
If
Yes.
you missed leg day on the bodybuilding program, then you have to go make up that leg day somewhere else, or you just skip it for that week and then you skipped your legs. You know what I'm saying? So like that was really good for people like that their schedules kind of here or there, they're struggling with commitment. And so that struggle with commitment that's a tough one, right? Because we want people to get better with commitment. That's the whole point, right? So that's where like a lot of times I'll either recommend, like, if I don't want to go fully to that full body, I'll recommend like the 4 day bodybuilding program. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. That's it. It's always Monday, Tuesday. You always have Wednesday off. You always have the weekend off. So you know what your schedule is every single week. It doesn't change and you can kind of plan around that. So that helps people be consistent because it's like on these days I have this, these days I have this and this, right? Where full body, some people their schedule just doesn't allow for that, right? Where
Right.
they have different commitments on different days, things with kids, kids are in sports and stuff like that, like their schedule changes. So that's where if that set schedule doesn't work because your life doesn't have a set schedule, then that full body is a lot more flexible.
Would you say, because this is something I'm learning, and I'm 50, but one of the things that I'm learning that has been huge for me is to understand that bodybuilding, No, you're not going to get super jacked. You're not going to be like one of those guys, on the Mr. Olympia or whatever. You could look not you can look great on vacation taking your shirt off if you did 4 or 5, 6 days of bodybuilding, because I think a lot of people have the word bodybuilding, and then they look at, these genetic freaks that are out there at Mr. Olympia or whatever, and they don't understand what bodybuilding can actually do for you and your body. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Well, and so the way that I like to put it these days, right, is you can be a bodybuilder or you can be a competitive bodybuilder, right? And those two things used to be like the same, right? But like,
Mhm.
especially today, there's a lot of people that don't, they're huge in the fitness industry that don't compete at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never got any recognition for the shows that I did, so like nobody cared, saying that I won this show and that show. People are like, okay, I don't know what that is. Good job, I get. Like, say
Right.
they don't care. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people who are like this kid. I don't know if you've heard of Sam Sulik. He's super crazy
Yeah.
popular in this industry. Young kid. Yeah, this dude's 21, 22 years old and is arguably the most popular bodybuilder in the world right now. Never competed ever in his life. You know what I'm saying? So like you can be a bodybuilder without having to get on stage and look that way, right? Because when we're just the word itself, body build, you're building your body. So if you want to build muscle, if you want to have a sculpted physique, that's bodybuilding. It's what it is. Like, what other way would you describe it? You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't have to get on
Yeah,
stage, but that's
right.
what like people don't know. They're like, well, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. Like they think, like you said, that if they're a bodybuilder, that means that they're going to be Mr. Olympia on stage. Like, well, I don't want to do that, but I really want to look, this way. So yeah, it's bodybuilding.
Yeah, I
There's not
think most guys don't realize, especially if you're once you start getting past that, like 35-year-old, like bodybuilding is going to be for me personally, bodybuilding has changed my body more than anything. Dieting of I would put up there too, of course, but actually going to the gym 5, 6 days a week and taking the time and making the commitment. One, I've gotten a lot stronger, but and that's not my focus. Number two, I don't feel ashamed taking my shirt off, going, on vacation where most guys, they went to the beach or went to the pool, don't want to do that. So, and I think that's a big deal if you feel ashamed of your body. And bodybuilding to me, for a guy, is probably the number one, I would say the number one thing you can do. One, for me, it's the hardest thing I do every day. So if I get that done and over with, then everything else is easy. Number two, it allows me to make commitment and to learn commitment. And we talked about that before. Number three, I think, and I want you to talk about this, is if I have a long-term goal, like if I like use your program, I'm not going to get jacked in 12 weeks. I can see some changes if I take pictures before and after and I'm on a diet, but if I have a 2-year goal or a 5-year goal or a 10-year goal, you're going to be that's where it's kind of what do you say when guys want, I mean, this Insta world, everything's Insta, like 30 seconds or less. What do you say to guys when when they start getting into bodybuilding, and they're looking at time frames?
well. There's a couple ways to look at it. So it's kind of a little bit of a complicated answer. Um, so on the one hand, depending on what you want to look like, right? And that's what a lot of people don't understand because most guys they want to put on some muscle. We're talking about guys they want
Right.
to get bigger. They also want to get leaner. A lot of guys want to lose weight, but
Mhm.
most guys want to be more muscular than they are. You know what I'm saying? And so the one thing is like being lean can make you look more muscular, right? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. So like I don't know if you can see my arm here. So sorry, my doc almost knocked over the light. So when you start to get cut, like I'm bulking right now, so I'm not super super lean, but you start to get this separation of the shoulder here. You get the tricep
Right.
coming down here. You get the bicep coming out here. So when you start to get those cuts in there, it's all your muscles almost get like they don't literally get pulled apart, but because you can see the line in between, it gives the illusion that everything is a lot more separated out.
Right,
So
right.
that's where, like, if you want to look more jacked and more ripped, getting lean can do that relatively quickly. You know what I'm saying? Because you can lose. I mean, you absolutely can lose fat faster you build muscle. Like, that's not even close to a close comparison. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to put on 20 pounds of muscle, right? That's going to take most people at least a year. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, most people. And where dropping 20 pounds of fat, you can do that in a month, 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, somebody that has like a decent frame already, they can look a lot more jacked just by leaning out. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So versus trying to pack on all this mass and be huge, that's gonna take longer. So you also want to make sure though that you do have some muscle there to begin with, right? So that's where, like, that's why I said it's kind of a complicated answer, because there's such different body types. Like, if we take somebody
Right.
who's really overweight, right, who's more overweight, they're most likely, if you're an overweight person, especially as a guy, generally you also have some pretty decent muscle underneath. You know what I'm saying? There's not a whole lot of people that are just really scrawny and weak that are also extremely overweight. Like, those, that does happen, but that's a lot more rare. You know what I'm saying? So you take a big guy and have him cut down a little bit, he's going to look jacked really quick. You know what I'm saying? Versus a guy who's already lean, then getting leaner is not going to make them look more ripped. But then again, the size is going to show up more quickly on them because they're already lean. You know what I'm saying? So it's really kind of that balance between the two of cut or bulk, or figuring out like what's going to be best for your body type. So that's where I tell a lot of people that are kind of in between that, right? Like, because that's going to be the other person. They're like, well, I don't know. I'm not like super overweight, but I'm not like a really skinny guy either. So, like, where do I fall in the middle of that? That person, I would say, bulk first. Do like 3 to 6 months of bulking, putting on some muscle, because it's just going to add some muscle anyway, which is helpful. It's going to speed up your metabolism, and then you go into the cut after that, and that'll be a lot faster. But yeah, so there's like different routes you can go about it. But, like, realistically, man, I mean, you could, either which way you go about it, you could like drastically change the look of your body in a year's time. Like,
Right. 100%.
drastically, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you can have people that can drop well over 100 pounds, 100, 150 pounds, some 200 pounds in a year, depending on how overweight. I mean, you have to be a pretty big person to lose 200 pounds in a year. And if you are that big, that's going to come off really fast in the beginning. So there's like caveats to those formulas and everything like that. But to my point, whether you're extremely hundreds of pounds overweight or you're just a frail nothing, you can drastically, I mean, you can notice a difference in 3 months, either which way. Like, you'll see a difference. You won't be a completely different person. Be like, okay, like, I'm changing. But a
Mhm.
year's time, you can look literally like a different person. And
Yes.
you
Yeah. 100%.
continue on from that. I mean, you have to keep it going. That's the other thing too, is you can't just like work out really hard and diet strict for a year and then you just keep that for the rest of your life without doing that. You know what I'm saying? The maintenance
I
is
know one of the
considerably easier than the progression. So there is that to remember.
right. But don't you think that after you've done it for a while, it's easier? Like, if you can get past like your 12-week program, if you could download the app, make a commitment for 12 weeks, then you see some changes, take a picture before, take a picture after, you're doing the diet. Um, don't you feel like like for you, you don't think twice about not going to the gym? Like, you've done this for so long, that's just who you are, that's what you do, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's days where I'm like, look, today I'm fucking exhausted today. I didn't sleep that well last night, so I'm way tired today. And it's one of those where it's like you just do it. It'll be rougher. I'm gonna struggle and it's gonna be hard. But that's just it. Like, it's an hour and it's out of the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe for me an hour and a half sometimes. But like, today's shoulders for me, so that's usually a quick day. So that's the thing, man. It's like that's the biggest thing that I try to like really, 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 really drive home to people is that it just isn't that hard. Like it's not easy, but like it takes work. It's challenging. It's hard. You know, I'm not saying it's not at all, but people build up this whole like idea around working out like it's this like crazy monumental battle that they have to go fight every single day. I'm like, dude, you're literally just using your body for an hour. Like that's all that's happening. Like it's not that much. Seriously. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. Like and everybody I think knows that because then when they do it, they get through it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's
Right.
very, 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 very few people that I've met that literally just cannot make it through an hour workout. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And unless you have someone that's trying to make them do like an elite athlete, but that's like we're not talking about that. Like, come on, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about the average person that is going to go to the gym that wants to look better, be healthier. Like that, the training that it takes to do that is not that hard. It just is not. But we create such a belief around, and that's the big thing I focus on, man. Is the belief patterns that people have around things, or the number of people that it's the same thing with diet that people as soon like how many people have you known that it'll literally be like the first day that they started dieting. There's like, oh my God, I'm so miserable. I'm so hungry. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yes.
Nothing's happened yet. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. You started your diet 2 hours ago. Like you're fucking
Right.
fine. But that's my point
Yeah,
is that
it's hilarious. I heard somebody say this was funny. They're like, "Here's a piece of kale. Will you eat this right now? Oh, you won't? Then you're not hungry."
right, exactly. Yeah. Like that's exactly it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we're not really hungry. We're just bored most of the time. One of the things I want to talk to you about is because I think this is really important. When it comes to bodybuilding, one of the things I had to learn when I started training up again, because I hadn't trained for so long, is I had this ego from high school or college or whatever of I need to get to 245 plates on the bench press, like 315, whatever. And so I ended up, and I want people to really understand this, and you talk about this. What I ended up doing is slinging a bunch of weight, had really bad form, and at this was in my early 40s when I first started, like back up again. I kept injuring myself like over and over and over again. Like I'd injure my forearms, and then I injured my knees because I was trying to do really heavy squats. When it comes to bodybuilding, when it comes to your app, when you're first starting out, what do you talk about when you talk about putting weight on the bar and injury?
So the biggest thing I would look at it, and I literally kind of came up with this idea as you're saying it right now, so I'm proud of it. But so weight, think that you want to think is building your body. Think of the weight as just a tool. It's a tool that you use to do that. So how big of weight or the size of weight, how much weight you use, think of that like your shoe size, right? This guy has
Mhm.
a size 10, this guy has a size 12, right?
Right.
That's just the size of the tool that you need to use for your body to do what he needs to do. This is what he needs to use for him to do that, right? So instead of like, because I've had the exact same thing. Like to this day, dude, if I put less than 225 on the bench press, it makes me feel like a pussy.
Right. Yes.
I've
Right.
done a 405 incline press for 5 reps before. You know what I'm saying? I've maxed at 450, but going going past that too much, there's a point where like I'm not getting the same feel in my chest. So that's the big thing is being really aware of your body. So say for instance, like I put 250 on the bar, let's say, and I'm coming down and I'm pressing. And I can get all my reps, but on the way down, it's just like tight, 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 and then reversing. Like I just feel like I'm tight the entire time. Versus I lighten that weight up a little bit, it comes down. I feel my chest open, and then I feel that squeeze and everything comes together and the weight almost like sails up and it feels almost like it's too easy, but then my chest will just be exploding with blood and the pump, and it did way more. So that's the thing too, is it's like it's not just do as much weight as you can do. You know what I'm saying? And if you do it that way, things get way more complicated. Like that's when you get into the that pure strength program that I have. you can't train heavyweight, low reps every single time, or you're going to wreck your body. So there's like strength train's a lot more complicated because you have to have those very heavy, low rep days in order to progress in that kind of strength. But then you also have to be able to dial it back enough to allow your body to recover, but not dial it back too much to where you're not doing enough. So it's a real
I
big
think it's
balance with
ego. For me, it was ego. It was like,
yeah,
there's other guys here at the gym. I don't want them seeing me with just a bar and 225s. I got to have the 45 on there. So, and so then I'm not doing, 12, 15 reps. I'm not getting the stretch, like you said. So I think this is something that if you're going to go at it alone and you don't have a trainer, use your app, follow that, but start
yeah,
where because I've injured myself. Like I've done stupid
yeah.
stuff and injured myself in the gym.
Well, it should honestly the best way I would say for like that person that you're talking, the person that say they don't have a trainer, they don't use the app, they don't do anything, they just 100% on their own. Realistically, your reps should feel good, right? Like it should be like there'll be a burn towards the end, but like you should not really be you should not be in pain during your set, right?
Yes,
Like
yes,
that should
exactly.
be like it should feel more like a massage, honestly. Like a deep tissue massage, not like a little Swedish spa massage. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
right, right,
when you get a deep tissue massage, like it's a little bit painful, but it feels good. You know what I'm
right,
saying? And
right.
you feel the release. It should be more like that. Like you should feel good. You should feel like that swelling in your chest. You should feel the blood rushing to the muscle. You should feel all of those things. It shouldn't be like tight and cramping and hurting like that. You know. So
Yeah,
that's the thing.
because joints are a big thing as you get older,
Yeah.
and tendons, stuff like that. So I mean, I'm still battling my left arm, the tennis elbow or whatever you get. But I literally know when I got that, I had 110-pound dumbbells. Dumb. You can't do proper flies. I mean, maybe you can. I can't do proper flies with 110-pound dumbbells. It just looked cool. But I was just pumped, like, the little shorts, like, because that's all you can do. um it's there too. If I drop down to 60 pounds, 50, 60 pounds, I can do them, get the big stretch like you were saying, and it actually burns more, and I'm more sore by doing it that way. So I just for me personally, just sharing with people, and that's why I wanted you to talk about that. Next thing I want to talk about is one of the big things that's helped me, and this for men, especially when they get older, is testosterone. So, and I don't know your view on this or whatever, but for me, testosterone replacement therapy was a huge. It the problem with it, I think a lot of people think they can take this shot. I get a shot once a week at a clinic here locally that does it. A problem with it is they think they can still eat bad and they don't have to train as much, and they're going to get automatically jacked. So when you talk to men about testosterone replacement therapy, what are you telling them?
Yeah, I think it's great. Like people that ask me if I recommend, it, I'm like, yeah, 100% to everybody. Like it makes you
Yes,
better. You
100%.
know what I'm saying? There, the as far as like the negatives around it, side effects and this and that type of thing. Most of that shit, honestly, most of the stuff that you hear is just flat out not true. Like to be
Yes,
perfectly honest
right.
with you,
Exactly.
most of the scary stuff that you hear is 100% wrong. Like it's just not true at all. Are there problems that you can have if you don't do it correctly? Yeah. They're like it's not like life threatening stuff. I mean, you can absolutely mess up your hormone levels, and then you have low testosterone, that you have mood issues, you're tired, like low motivation. So like, which is what most people are dealing with already anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
side effects that you are afraid of, that's your life right now. So worst case scenario is you're exactly the same. You know what I'm saying? uh,
I think most guys, if they get it, so I got mine checked because I was like, whatever, not a big deal.
yeah,
And I went and got it checked, and I was at 400 and something.
yeah,
So, the first time I got it checked. So then the lady's like, "Well, let's try these pellets." I don't really like the pellets. I tried them. Everybody's different, but I tried those, and then I was like, "Oh, I want to go to the gym. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't feel like a pussy anymore. Oh, I'm actually don't mind having this conversation at work as a leader. I'm confronting people when I normally probably would be more pacifist. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it changed my mood big time, probably more than anything.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's huge, and like I don't like. I think part of the issue, what you were saying, where people think that you're just going to, you can take that and still eat like shit and get in shape, is I think that like there's right now with the testosterone, the TRT, the testosterone replacement therapy, there's this blurred lines between what that is and what just steroids are, right? And
Right,
so the
right,
best way
exactly.
to explain is like testosterone is considered a steroid, right? Where but it's testosterone, like it's it builds muscle, so it's considered a steroid. The difference between that and like other compounds is testosterone is bioidentical, right? So that it's synthetic, but it's made to be exactly like testosterone in the body, so it, lack for a better word, is testosterone, right? Whereas your other compounds are going to, the way that they act in the body acts like testosterone, but it's not testosterone. So it has
Mhm.
similar effects, but it's not. So that's where people wind up having problems. Is they'll like a big one, a common one is there's a steroid called Dianabol, and it's a pill and
Right.
it's a very powerful steroid, right? And so a lot of people want to take that because they don't want to do the injections, right? So they just want to take a pill
Mm,
instead.
right.
Well, the problem is that particular pill is a very powerful drug that mimics testosterone, but it's not testosterone. So what happens is your body thinks it has testosterone, so it stops producing its own testosterone. So now you don't actually have testosterone. You have this in there that's building muscle, but now you don't have actual testosterone. So then you want to run into all these low testosterone side effects, even though you're on that stuff. So that's where people get they get the idea that there's some idea that like you can take steroids, you can take testosterone, and it's cheating. Like that's what people call. Oh, he takes this and he's cheating. So
Right, right.
from that, what I think people think, it blows my mind that people actually think this, but they do. They legitimately think that you could just take that or work out. Like it's like one or the other.
Right,
Like
yeah,
you
that's what I was saying.
eat
Yeah,
right
yeah.
and work out, or instead you could just take this thing and then you don't know how to fuck with all that. And it's not like that is not even remotely
Yeah,
true
for
at all.
me, it's kinda like it doesn't really work unless you're dieting clean
Yeah.
and you're working out like 4 or 5 times a week. It doesn't
Right.
work. Like it you could take a guy, he's not gonna change that much if he's on testosterone. He may feel a little better, may
Yeah.
change his mood, but as far as physically, it's like you have to go to the gym. And
Yeah.
there's
Like
a difference between, I mean, and you know this, you've been in the industry for so long. There's a difference between, a steroid testosterone dose of 500 milligrams or more
yeah.
compared to like a testosterone replacement therapy where most guys would go to a clinic or whatever and get 150 milligrams, 200 milligrams. Big
Yeah.
difference, on the two. But it's don't feel like I want men that are out there to understand this. Don't feel like more is better on everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you're wanting to be bodybuilding and you're wanting to go on stage, that's different. But if you're just an average guy that wants to look good with the shirt off, you know, TRT, this replacement therapy is totally fine and it's safe. Like you said, most of the
Well,
stuff that's out there is bullshit.
basically, if you're doing like clinical testosterone replacement therapy, like you said, you're not getting like a professional bodybuilder dose of testosterone. You're getting enough testosterone to make you a normal man, right? And a
Yes, exactly.
normal man is not super jacked. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
right.
that's the thing is you're just going to be normal. You know what I'm saying? And so there's even through TRT, there's different like ways to do it or different amounts, so to speak. And the way that like if you go to a clinic and you're talking to them about it, you want to be optimized that's the language that you want to use is I want to optimize so that means I want to be the highest that I can be. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's still not gonna be Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman. You know what I'm saying? Like you're
Right. Right.
you're not like that's a considerably different thing for a considerably different purpose, and they have professionals that are working with them for that purpose. You know what I'm saying? And So yeah, like that's the average person. Like it will make a bigger difference than anything else that you could do. It's going to make a bigger difference than any supplement that you could take. But it like testosterone replacement therapy is not going to turn you into a professional bodybuilder. Like it's just not the way it works.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Ben, I really appreciate this. We've got a ton of information here to help leaders and help men out. What is the way that they can download the app, or if they want to see more? What is your Instagram and what is your app called?
So my Instagram is lifts with wolves. It's lifts.with.wolves. And then my app is the same name, Lifts with Wolves. You can find it in the App Store if you're on Apple, or the Google Play Store if you're on Android, or the link in my bio on my Instagram. But if you just search Lifts with Wolves in either of those stores, it'll just come right up.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. We'll have those two links in the show notes.